Hello and welcome to Business Daily, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Lee Ji-yoon. Before we get started, let's first take a quick look at what you can expect from us this morning. The U.S. Federal Reserve is expected to raise interest rates for the first time in nearly a decade. What does this mean for the global economy and Korea? Once Korea's second largest mobile phone maker, Pantech, might be going out of business. We have these stories and more coming right up. Korea has ranked higher this year in global competitiveness thanks to improved scores and economic performance. According to the 2015 World Competitiveness Yearbook released by Swiss-based Institute for Management Development, the country ranked 25th out of 61 countries, a notch up from last year. The country saw better performance in the category of economic achievements, in which the jobless rate, the country's export volume, and trade surplus were cited as being relatively strong. But it didn't do as well in terms of overall labor market conditions. The National Tax Service is likely to reissue additional taxes on profit that Lone Star had made on the sale of a local skyscraper in 2004. On Thursday, the Seoul High Court handed a partial victory to tax authorities, ruling the U.S.-based private equity firm must pay $58.4 million in corporate taxes. On the remaining $35.2 million of the tax office's suit, the court said tax authorities could reintroduce the motion after amending procedural errors. The tax office is able to levy the taxes again within 1 year of a judgment. In a separate investor-state dispute, the equity firm is demanding from Seoul billions of dollars in lost profit and taxes. Ben Bernanke, the former chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve, has said the central bank's expected rate hike will be, quote, anticlimactic when it happens, and there will only be minor negative impacts on Korea. Speaking at a private financial forum in Seoul on Wednesday, he said there may be some volatility, but as Korea has good policy and institutions, he dismissed concerns of a massive capital outflow from Asia's fourth largest economy. Bernanke also commented that an export-focused economy has its limits and suggested that Korea further boost its domestic economy. When you think of Korean phone makers, the companies that usually come to mind are Samsung or LG. But back in 2005, there was another phone manufacturer, Pantech, which used to be one of the leading brands. A change in times has brought about trouble for Pantech, and now its fate hinges on an impending court ruling. Our Lee Ji-young tells us more.
This photo exhibition bears memories of 24 years of history. It displays over 400 pictures of Pantech employees, the Korean manufacturer of the Vegaphone series. Founded in 1991, Pantech began a small company with 6 employees. It grew to hire almost 2,000 workers by 2005, and for a number of years enjoyed the title of being Korea's second largest mobile phone maker after Samsung. But the tech company has been going downhill ever since, accumulating over $900 million worth of debt as of first quarter this year. The company has been in court receivership since August of last year. Its efforts to find a suitable buyer has hit a dead end 3 times.
We are in a very difficult situation right now, but we wanted to look back at our past and muster up the courage to overcome this current situation. That's why we're holding this photo exhibition.
But sentiments aside, Pantech earlier this week asked the court to halt its receivership. With this, chances of the company facing liquidation have become more apparent. Experts say the company's financial woes largely stem from its failure to keep up with fast-evolving global competition. It failed to lock down a significant part of the global market share as competing giants like Samsung Electronics and Apple swooped in with superior designs, software, and better customer service.
Pantech once had a competitive advantage in the smartphone market with its original design and technology. But if Pantech disappears, the competition will become more price-based between Chinese companies and conglomerates like Samsung and Apple.
And with 2 weeks left before the final verdict from the court, hundreds of employees along with investors, creditors, and subcontractors are hoping for a better-than-expected outcome. Lee Ji-young, Business Daily.
Now, this year, the U.S. Fed is expected to raise its federal funds rate that has hovered around 0% since 2008 financial crisis. What kind of impact will this have on the world economy, including Korea? Let's find out.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has held its federal funds target rate at a range between 0 to 0.25% since late 2008. But Chair Janet Yellen signaled last week the country may be ready to raise that figure if the economy maintains positive signs of growth.
If the economy continues to improve as I expect, I think it will be appropriate at some point this year to take the initial step to raise the federal funds rate target.
Along with Yellen, the Fed's vice chairman Stanley Fischer has said the normalization policy should, quote, prove manageable for the emerging market economies. Once the Fed raises its interest rates, it's expected to have wide implications for the global economy, including Korea.
The Bank of Korea will strengthen its monitoring of capital flow and other volatility factors in international financial markets to decide on monetary policies and will also take into account factors such as Korea's growth, household debt, and inflation.
What kind of impact will the Fed's looming rate hike have, and will the BOK follow suit?
And to tell us more about this, we're now joined by Professor Yang Jun-seok from the Catholic University of Korea. So good to have you join us this morning.
Happy to be here.
All right, so starting us off, so the Fed has been hinting at a rate hike this year. But when do you think this will actually happen, and what pace of change are we looking at here?
Okay, well, the analysts have been expecting at the beginning of the year the rate hike will take place either June or September. But the first quarter growth in the United States was lower than expected, so everybody said that maybe definitely not June, maybe even later than September. But then the Professor Yellen dropped this bomb on us, so now everybody's now expecting September. It should not be any more than 0.25% because, well, the Fed doesn't want to give too much of a shock to the global economy as well as the U.S. economy, since one of the factors that may have contributed to the 2008 financial crisis was that they raised interest rates too quickly a few years before then.
All right. Well, currently the Bank of Korea's interest rate stands at an all-time low of 1.75%. Do you think if the Fed raises its interest or the key rate, then do you think Korea will have to push its interest rate up as well?
Okay. Last year I may have given a different answer because we didn't know something back then. But when we dropped the interest rate 3 times last year and this year, we didn't find that much of a capital outflow. So I think as long as the capital outflow doesn't seem to be accelerating, I think we'll wait a while to see whether we need to raise the interest rate or not. And if we find that capital outflow isn't that bad, then I think we'll just maintain the rates that we have already.
Okay, but then what about the country's ballooning household debt? I mean, it's creating a lot of concern. Do we have any other issues that could be of concern if Korea decides to raise its interest rate?
Well, there's the two big problems. In the short run, the recession or slowdown is continuing, I should say. And with that, we have very high unemployment rate for young people, and we have consumption and investment, which are still very low. In addition to that, there's right now concerns about exchange rates because the strength of the yen is so low, and that's creating some hardships for some exporters. And then there's another big problem that's always hovering above us, which is the aging problem.
Aging problem. Well, we talked about the weakening yen, but like we said, Europe, Japan, and other emerging economies have been all lowering their rates. But what kind of impact will Washington's monetary policy have on the global economy as a whole then?
Okay, everybody's very concerned because during the summer of 2020, 2013, when there were some indications that perhaps the Fed will raise its rates, we had a lot of problems in the emerging economy, especially India. India almost underwent a financial crisis. Luckily, it was avoided. But I think part of the reason why Yellen is giving us this warning right now is to have volatility take place over a longer period of time, and so that if the Fed decides to raise its rates, then it'll have less a shock on the emerging economies.
So we're looking at gradual pace.
Well, that's what they're warning us for.
Okay, well, so in line with all these changes, what should Korea do to prepare for any potential volatility down the line?
Okay, well, Korea has something that we didn't have in 2008, which is a set of macro-prudential regulations. Without going into too much detail, that just means that we sort of limited the amount of money that's coming into Korea quickly, so hopefully we'll have less volatility when they raise the interest rate. But it's not really been tested yet. So we'll have to see whether that works. That means the Bank of Korea has to keep a very careful monitoring of what happens with the capital movements between now and when they actually raise the interest rate. If the capital movements aren't that big, then I think the Bank of Korea will feel safe in just maintaining the current policies and maybe even lowering the interest rate another 0.25%. But if the capital outflow seems to be accelerating, then they'll have to seriously consider raising the interest rate instead.
All right, so a key would be to close monitoring of capital outflow and all that.
Yes.
All right, okay, thank you so much for coming in today, Professor.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you on this edition of Business Daily. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back tomorrow morning right here on Arirang, so don't forget to tune in then. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.